Well, here I go. I'm going to start on the hood. Put the glass in there, evenly spaced underneath it. To give enough room for a nice bead of urethane underneath there. And I'll have to bring the body up to match the contour of that glass. And I marked this with a pen along the black edge of the window, and then a couple more lines down, an inch apart, and using that to line up the hood and that contour of that line as compared to the glass, and it's quite a bit off. There's a hump right here in the middle, so I'm going to bring that down, and then this side is shy over here compared to that side, so I'll be bringing this side up quite a bit. You can see way too much of the glass right here. I don't like that compared to the other side, or it's not there, so I'll be bringing that up. And I want it to be symmetrical. When you walk up and look at it, that's one of the first things you'll see, is whether or not, if it lines up, you won't notice it, but if it doesn't line up, that's the first thing your eyes will go to. So I want to fix that. And then I'm going to make both these sides the same right here, and start getting the hole for the glass to where it follows the contour of the glass. Get that part done. I've got the hood all wiped down with wax and grease remover. So after I get the contour of that and fitting the doors, then I'm going to put the vents in and make sure the lights fit and the covers over the lights, all that good stuff. So there I've got the edge of the back edge of the hood extended out. I had built that up with cardboard and some masking tape down here. When this thing is shut and then glassed over the top of it, and now I'm going to be much closer to lining up to the windshield, and I've got it halfway ground down, but you can see the lines I've got drawn on the glass are going to match up with the back edge of that hood a whole bunch better. So I'll get that ground down some more and then grind down the back edge of it and fill in any thin spots, and then put some Bondo on there and finish that up, and then start doing the back edge here against the door. Get that faced up and looking good. Now this is showing, I got the level out again, the laser level. Good time to stop and check the frame. Make sure it's still sitting on there proper. And since I'm trying to get the top edge of this hood where I want it, I decided to check everything out, because I don't know, there's a couple things that just are a little bit different. Like the hump in this hood's different on this side compared to the other side, and it just makes it a little bit weird. Want to really stop and check and make sure I have everything sitting just as close, as centered up and level as I can get it. And so I shimmed the glass and got it sitting where I want. And then when I move this up and down this level line, you can kind of see it's going to work out pretty good because the rest of the hood is level, like the vents and the lights and the bottom of the hood. And then right on up to the top of the hood, and then transfer that all the way back up to the glass. You know, there's black line all the way around that glass, and that's where I have that blue line drawn on there. So, and then I'll get the gap in between the hood and the glass even all the way around. And that way when you walk up and look at the car, it's all going to look nice and even and symmetrical. A little more progress on the hood. I got the first round of fiberglass on here. You know, I'd put some tape behind there and got it to sit right down on the body. Now I need to bring this top edge out some more, so I'll ground that down. I'll put some more tape on here and give it a guide of where I want it to be. And I got the top part roughed in with Bondo, and it's sitting pretty good. I got that arc good enough, I believe. And I'm just waiting to get both ends done and get those roughed in pretty good, and then I'll kind of put one more coat of Bondo over the whole thing and hit it the whole thing as one piece, you know, that way it's got the best chance of it coming out nice and even. Got this side pretty much done. I'm not sure if I want to keep that all the way down right there, put a gap right there on that part, or cut it way back up, you know, and give it the same thickness as I have down here and follow that up on that part, which might look pretty good. So I'm going to leave that for now, get the other side done, see how that goes. I've got Bondo built up against the glass, so that meets the glass edge now. And I'll get that roughed in on the other side the same way. It's got to be built up quite a bit. Been working on this side of the door, or this side of the car, getting the gaps lined up here, and getting that pocket dialed in a little bit better, getting this gap dialed in a little bit better, and as well as the gap around the windshield, or the door glass. And this part up here, and I put some stoppers in here. They're adjustable, turn them in and out, up and down. Made some little stops up here on my hood, and I did that on the other side, and I'm going to have one in the... So I've got all the seams ground down, put Bondo on them. Got all the edges matched up here. Got the gel coat sanded down with 80 grit with the DA. And now I'm going to put a glaze coat over the top of it. Get it nice and flat. So I got the hood done, and look at the mess. It's exactly why I wanted to do this part first. A lot of mess. It's pretty good. Now it's time to get stuff cleaned up. So I'm going to put the vents in, and then I mocked everything up as far as how I'm going to secure it down on the hood before I get all the fiberglass, all the sticky stuff out. And I went ahead and carved out the inside first. Figured it'd be easier to do it on the bench than leaning over the hood. And I made sure that, you know, these openings are parallel. You know, and used a file to round off the corner right there. So when you look down the hood, they all look the same. You know, as you walk down the hood, you see the gaps open up all the same angle, all at the same time. And you pretty much got to draw a line down the edge. Pretty narrow here. I got to grind a little bit more here. Get that thing to sit in there proper. It's almost pretty good. And I'll do the back side. Probably do both of them, and then get the top done. I'll grind that back off, put a little bit more on top, and then I'll do the vents over the wheels. Probably going to go from underneath on these. You know, I don't want to change the contour of that fender. I want to keep that flat the way it is, and if I stick these on top, it's going to be like a bulge sitting up there. So I'll probably go from the bottom and then just bring the fender edge right up to the top of this, to where those vents are just poking out a little bit. I think that'll look good like that. Hood turned out nice. The wheel arch just perfect. Gap's perfect. Shut's perfect. Those little rubber stoppers I put on each end, and I gotta push pretty hard to get that thing to go down, and then that way my hood's not gonna flop around. When I'm driving down the road, it's in there, it's snug. Lines up with this edge just right. And again, I don't know if I'm going to carve that out. You know, everything meets up just perfect. Follows the contour of the glass. Really nice. Follows the arch of the glass. Real nice. So I'm pretty happy with that. So there's the vents glassed in there. Now I'll go ahead and grind this part off. Get this part scratched up and grind into this part just a touch. And glass in the top of that. And then put some Bondo on there. Mold it all in. And I don't think I'm going to put the vents up here on the fenders. I'm kind of talking myself out of it. There's a lot of meat, backbone in here on that fender. And it's got a brace inside this hood, which helps support it. But I'm kind of not liking the idea of cutting a big hole in here. And then you know, if I paint this thing black, I'm always gonna have stuff coming up here from the tires. So I'm kind of second guessing the vents up here on the fender. We'll see. Now I got the vents glassed in. I also put some glass over the emblem. Nothing against Factory 5, but I just don't want any emblems on it, so I'm going to cover that up. And I was talking to some guys on the forum today, and they said it's no big deal to cut those out. And one guy that's built a whole bunch of these, he said he just cut out the slits, which is probably what I'm going to do. And rather than go from the bottom, I think I'm going to just take the router and cut down the thickness of that fiberglass sheeting and just inlay it down in the fender so I don't have to swell up the contour of that fender at all. And then from underneath, I'll make a way to pin up some foam or a screen or something so stuff doesn't blow up onto the fender. So here's the fender vents. I am going to put them in. And after talking to some people on the forum, given the fact that that thing is pretty thick, I can tell just by feeling from one side, you know, I'm just going to take a router and route down in, you know, the thickness of this thing and inlay it down in there, bond it in there, and then you know, like pour it out the vents into the fender. And that way it'll be nice and flush with the top of the fender, and it's going to be able to, you know, retain its structure, so that'll be good. And as far as getting it lined up, I went ahead and shot a center line down the center of the hood and took a moment and recentered, you know, made sure the car was level and centered, the center line. And then I shot down the center of the headlight bucket. You know, I figure when you walk up to the car, you know, not only that, when you walk up to the car and you know, you look down the center of that vent, it kind of lines up down the center of the headlight bucket right to the point of the edge of the hood back here. And measuring in the middle of the vents and the contour of the fender, so it looks like a nice natural spot for that thing to lie, and an easy way to get both sides looking the same. Otherwise it's kind of hard to measure it and eyeball it and get it centered. So I just measured back from here, you know, to a couple spots, measured from here to here, from here to the center, and I'm going to go do the same thing to the other side, and should be pretty good. Then I'll just put some tape here, take a razor blade, slice down there, then I can take that on and off and know exactly where to put it back without having to redo it every time. Okay, now I got them all centered up there pretty much where I want. And it's not going to be perfect. You just kind of have to average out all the different angles, all the different measurements, and kind of get them averaged out to where it kind of fools the eye. But it looks pretty good sitting right there. Everything seems pretty good. I put some string across there just to help me, another angle to help eyeball it. By doing that, it actually shows me how this passenger side is so much higher. Remember how I said that side's humped up more than this side? And it's quite a bit. So if you sit down here and look at it, the passenger side sits up a lot higher than the driver's side. So I'm just going to mount the driver's side right to the top of the fender, which is going to make that one higher, and I'm going to route this one down into the fender, which is going to drop that one down. And then that should make it a lot more level, you know, with the rest of the car, which so far is sitting pretty level. I'm able to, you know, the headlights, the front of the hood, you know, right down to the frame, right up to the windshield, the top of the hood, that, you know, it's all sitting pretty much level, so that really sticks out. So anyway, I'm going to drop that down, leave that one where it is. Should be pretty good that way. And I'm getting ready to put this vent in here, and carved out the slots in there, marked some points, you know, where I want to carve that down in there, and all the contact spots, you know, and I want to contact right across here, bond that so it's not flopping around. And so that leaves me, you know, after I penciled that out, it kind of leaves me the areas where it's going to be bond. And then this part here is where it's going to be carved out down into the fender. The fender's thick enough where, you know, I'll have to port that out, kind of channel that down in there, I think. So anyway, that's what it kind of ended up looking like. I'm going to carve that down now. Yeah, I got everything cut out. Got that inlaid down in there. Filed around the edges. Got that even as I could. Marked out some even spaces inside. Used some tape. Found out where I wanted to carve it out. So, you know, when you look down in there, it's going to look like that. And I think that's pretty much it. The fender's not as nearly as thick as I thought. In fact, one spot I went down too far, so I had to stop. That's good enough right there where it is. So I'll get that cleaned up and get that glassed on there. I'm doing the other side. And I got this all carved out. Nice and even. Set this on here I want. Kind of drew out the inside shape. And then going off the same thickness I did, you know, the same width overhang on this side. In other words, I'm not just chopping it off. I went down in there a little bit. Keep stuff from flying up so much. So I matched that distance over here. And then when this is on here, you know, I want to be able to eyeball down here and match that arc. So now I'm going to cut out these slots and get that beveled the way I want, and grind down that surface on each side and get it glassed on there. And I got everything ground down on the vents, ready for some Bondo. There's a lot of work. A lot of work getting those on there. Pain in the ass. But it looks pretty good. A lot of wood Bondo work to do. left on that. And then I'll go ahead and start putting the lights and stuff in it. And it's turning out pretty good.